Okay, how about we call the meeting to order? It's 6:31. As we get started, we got lots of things tonight, and lots of paper here, trying to keep. Any conflicts of interest to disclose? Any additions to the agenda? I do have one in the packet from Gail. There's a request to use the common, so we'll add that to the agenda, maybe down towards the end. Common request. Any other additions or to the agenda? No. And I guess what I was thinking was maybe we have two gentlemen here that want to talk to us about the wastewater plant. And Rick is here, so being that it's the weather, maybe we can move the two of them to the top, if that's okay with everybody. Yeah. And then we'll come back. Only other thing just to check in on is if there are any public comments. And I don't know that I received any. Okay. With that, why don't we move to wastewater plant update? And we had a couple of things on the agenda. One, Mike, we had on the agenda, just maybe an update on the clarifier.
Yep.
I know that.
Yep, I do have some information on that.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind.
So that's, when did that go back on last?
Got it on Wednesday of last week.
Wednesday of last week, we got that back up and operating. That gearbox, Tony Bullard found online. I think it was like $640 or something like that, plus a couple $100 shipping. I just got the quote from Winsmith today on what it would cost for a brand new one. $6,770 with 8 to 10 week lead time. So I still would like to rebuild the old gearbox to keep as a backup. The main thing that went in that was a couple bearings, which aren't a big deal, but there was a bronze gear that was probably about as big around as a softball and maybe 3/4 to an inch wide. That quote from Winsmith on that part was it was like $2,035 for that gear. And that's like a 2-week lead time. But I, spoke with Tony and he said, we're not in a rush with this because we've got the new one online. He thought he would do some searching to see if he could find another supplier or possibly another manufacturer that could do a better price on that gear. So he's gonna look on that for us and I'll keep you updated when we figure that out. This gear drive is actually a different ratio than the original. The original was a 1500 to 1, so it turned really slow. The one that Tony ended up getting was 750 to 1, so it's about twice as fast, but it doesn't seem to be causing any trouble. I will know tomorrow. We're wasting tomorrow, so that means the sweepers are turning faster in the bottom of the tank, but it's still really slow. I mean, before it was, you could hardly see it move. Now you can actually see it move, but I'll know tomorrow better if that's an issue, and if it becomes an issue for solids not settling as well for us to waste, we can put what they call a variable speed drive on the motor, so we can actually slow that gear drive down and compensate for that difference with the electric motor. I don't know, I didn't price out a VFD, I don't know what those do cost, but Tony's very aware of that, and if it comes to that, that may be something we would need to do, but as of right now, I think we're good with that.
Awesome.
So, and it looks like it's going to be significantly less money than.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony had to buy a piece of bar stock because that gear drive had a longer tail shaft or drive shaft that came out of it. It was something special made for Lakeside. So Tony basically built a new shaft and put that in the new gear drive. So I have no idea what that's going to cost, but I don't think that's going to be really expensive.
Sure.
So I don't know what Tony's bill is going to be, but I'm sure Gail will be seeing it sometime here in the near future. So that's good. I ordered chemicals today for chlorination that we need to start on April 1st. I talked with Nolan about that, and he advised me on what I should be getting, so I ordered that today. That should be delivered next Tuesday. I'm in correspondence with Thai Sales. They're a company that for chemical feed pumps. I know we had mentioned before about needing to update some of those pumps. I haven't got any prices with them yet. I'm just basically still in the correspondence stage. We haven't actually connected, but sometime next couple days I should have some figures on those. Other than that, I think we're good with things down there. Other than the forms I gotta update, which you're aware of that, right, Kevin?
Right.
Yeah. So,
And you did get a new computer, right?
I haven't seen it yet.
No, that's on the agenda for later. But it's coming. Gail and I have been back and forth, and
Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was the,
Mike said the one that was there is working faster now, so we decided not to. I'm just kidding.
I think I mentioned earlier in the winter about the conditions with the ice in the water tank that I was concerned about because it was building up on the tank. So last weekend, we were lowering the level of the tank for concern if that ice were to break and pop the roof off. That all came down and we're bringing the tank back up, but I think we're pretty much out of the woods with the ice situation in the tank so far. Unless we get a real significant cold snap again, which you never know, but I don't think we're gonna have anything too troublesome now. So I think we're good there. Do you have any other questions?
I know. Anybody have questions?
Thank you guys for all of your hard
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
Thanks for
getting that back up and running.
Well, whatever it is, we had to do it. It needed to be fixed, so it worked out. It's all right.
Well, yeah, just for getting that up and running and for keeping the plant running for the past 4 months. You know, to actually all three of you, because Rick has been
Yeah, I say
there as
Rick's there
well,
pretty
so
much every day too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick's helped out quite a bit.
Yeah.
He helped out get that gear drive back going too.
And so, are there any other questions? I know, I think Mike and Nate had asked to be put on the agenda. I think Nate sent along, at least to some of us today, just a draft
Yeah.
of a contract. Maybe if you guys could, just because we're on camera, just introduce yourselves. I mean, I know we
Yeah.
don't know Mike, Nate. I think most everybody knows Mike, but that way there, those that are watching.
I'm Nate Billings. I'm from Woodstock. I've recently started a company to do contract operations in the state. I actually ran Woodstock system, water system for 4 years, kind of doing everything there from the office side of everything, you know, all accounts payables, receivables, and doing payroll to when we had pipes break, I was fixing the pipe in the hole. So I kind of got a pretty good understanding of the operations of a system as a whole. And as that went on, I kind of knew how I understood how to run a company. I kind of wanted to just branch out and go on my own. And so that's kind of what led me to this. And trying to just get into contract ops. I know it's something that's needed in the state, and I enjoy doing primarily water stuff in the past, and this has been my first wastewater thing, but I've been enjoying all this, and I'm actually signed up to do the basic wastewater class coming up in April through June to start on getting my wastewater license. And yeah, so Mike and I have kind of talked about maybe teaming up together to do some contract ops and kind of put some numbers together to figure out right now with where my company's at with kind of what we would have to bid to the town essentially for what we would do to take over that. And there's still a lot of different logistics, I guess to say, to kind of get Mike from even where he is to a point where I can legitimately hire him and, you know, have him making what he would like to make, and you know, not having stuff priced through the roof. And, you know, I'm still in the process of picking up different water systems also. I'm working with another lady who's been doing contract ops for 30, 40 years, and she's trying to retire soon, and she's basically getting me in to start taking over her systems and transfer them. So basically trying to figure out how to have all my revenues coming in from different places and make it all work so that kind of Mike and I get what we're hoping to make out of the whole thing, to have this whole switch work for us, and like I said, not try not to price crazy high to where it's, you know, unreasonable.
Well, I mean, Mike had Mike had reached out to me and said, hey, what do you guys think? Would you be willing to listen to, or, you know, have a discussion about this? And given kind of where we are, and at least what I understand there is for vacancies in other towns around central Vermont, around the state, it seemed like something that was at least reasonable to invite them here tonight and kind of hear what they had to say. I don't know, you would forward it along a contract if you wanted to just kind of talk us through. I mean, we don't have to go through the.
I actually printed a bunch out if you want me to.
That would be great if you don't mind.
I think that's.
You don't mind? Who doesn't?
No, I tried.
Everyone else?
Just having
But yeah, essentially, the way I see it and the way, you know, we would do it is basically be the actual operators of the system, and where pretty much most of the other expenses still go straight through you guys and not through us. So in terms of, most of the stuff is what you already have anyway, all the different small tools, equipment within the lab, you know, all the different stuff that Chelsea basically already has is what we would use, and we're really just providing the bodies to do the work. And it's basically all day-to-day operations, you know, all sampling, all different reporting, paperwork that needs to be done. Obviously, we'll have general liability insurance and workers' comp for us. And let's see, there's a whole list. Obviously, you know, it's a issue around the state also with kind of outdated places and trying to update records and digitize stuff. You know, that's something I totally think is an operator's job, and I would definitely include within our fee, trying to get everything digital at some point. You know, I know the state's cracking down on, you know, at least O&M manuals being digital, going from just these books that are sitting in every plant around the state to actually something that's on a computer so that even they can access it nicely. I think that it's absolutely within our duties to be trying to work towards the future and get everything updated and, you know, on a computer. In terms of emergencies, I think that I wasn't going to add any extra fee for emergencies. I mean, I think there's a pretty small level of emergencies, but then also just going with the actual, you know, day-to-day operations aren't necessarily an incredibly large expenditure of time for us. I thought that, you know, if emergencies come up, we can eat that and just deal with it ourselves, and there's no other added expense. And I thought that would make it nicer for you guys trying to budget and know that this number's hard, basically, and that's what it is. And, you know, both of us have, I think, quite a bit of skill responding to emergencies and dealing with them. I know just my last year in Woodstock, we had 15 emergencies in just that single year, all on main lines, and having to deal with that. And, you know, some of them I contracted out to have, you know, an excavator come help me. We also had our own machine, and some of them I dug up and fixed myself. Basically all depended on how much of an emergency, how big of the main line, and how much water was coming out of the ground. But, you know, those are skills that I think both of us have. He's done plenty with excavation himself as well. But in terms of that, for what our insurance is, I would basically say we would do all the coordinating of hiring an excavating company to come, because I don't hold that insurance. But in terms of anything that needs to happen with the system, you know, we're right there to help with anything, turn valves, flow hydrants, whatever needs to be done pretty much, you know, turn on or off wells, notify customers, whatever it is.
I just know in the past that, you know, if we've had issues where we've had to dig for line breaks or whatever, Rick has, you know, typically done the digging. I don't know if that would still be an option for this or not. That's totally
And I mean,
up to
that's-
you guys and up to Rick, I guess.
Yeah, and that's something I feel comfortable with. I know I know I'm perfectly capable and able to fix any leak in the ground. I've done it dozens of times already, and it's honestly the fastest way to get it done too.
Right.
They usually always happen during winter, I come to find also, where a lot of contractors are plowing. Yeah.
Question. Because I end up getting a lot of calls, not a lot of calls, but when something goes wrong and there's nobody down at the plant, the call comes to me.
Yeah.
So would there be a person that I can call?
Absolutely. You'll
any time
basically- yep,
during the day?
Absolutely. Either my cell or Mike's cell, you'll always be able to get a hold of one of us.
Thank you.
And another thing actually that I just remember that's not on this list is we would definitely do meter readings. I consider that part of normal operations of a water system. I'd want to do hydrant flushing every single year, every spring. Exercise valves probably same time as that. And that's, like I said, that's all in keeping a water system operational.
Winterize the hydrants.
Winterize the hydrants as needed.
And just, and you just set it up, it was a question, I just wanted to make sure. So this proposal will be to operate the water and the wastewater
Water and
system.
wastewater, yep, exactly, both of them all together. And we hope, I still do have a couple questions though when it comes to the wastewater side, just because, my license is water. Obviously, I'm class 2 water, which is fine for here, and Mike is too, and Mike obviously holds the wastewater license. But does the permit read that we only need one chief operator? The fact that I don't have a wastewater license, I just want to basically
pretty
make
sure-
sure that we do not need an assistant chief, someone that holds a wastewater license as well, because obviously.
Unless something has changed, that's historically not the way it's been. There's been one chief operator and then an assistant could work, operator in training
Yeah.
could work under that chief. That's the way it's been. I don't think anything's changed to that.
And so, yeah, if that is the case, then that obviously works with the way it currently is.
We would still kind of, with the situation at hand with the confined space at the pump station, we'd still kind of have to have Rick.
That's another thing too, is it's hard for me to dedicate both Mike and myself here
7 days a week.
7 days a week, and so until that happens, it would, like on weekends, my wife is also on payroll, and so she would also be covered under insurance, so she can come with me on weekends, technically to make it so you wouldn't have to have Rick doing stuff on weekends. But in terms of when Mike's here, it would definitely be needed, I'd say, to have someone stop by for 10 minutes while, if that 5 minutes while Mike goes down there. But hopefully that situation all resolves itself, and, I know with engineering and construction delays.
Probably a couple of years
couple
out, but yeah, right.
But,
And there's a couple things I'd like we talked about in the past, about the SCADA system with the Brookhaven well, and then, that's not operating because it was struck by lightning.
Yeah.
I want to look into, getting that repaired, and then the circulator motor in the tank as well, because that also got knocked
yeah,
out.
and that would help prevent a decent amount of ice on the surface of that tank, which would solve a lot of problems. So yeah, that would be very nice to have that all taken care of.
Anybody have any questions for me and Mike?
So, I sort of do. So you would envision one of you would be coming every day?
Every single day, absolutely, yeah, it would be one of us.
Okay. And only on the weekends we would need the second person, is that what you said?
Well, no.
During the week?
The way I'm hoping to have, there might be a transition period where it's a little bit different, but ultimately it's like Mike would be during the week and I would come on weekends, and I'll bring my wife who is on, payroll with me, who's covered under insurance, to be there so that we don't need a second person.
We would need Rick during the week.
Rick during the week, and the way
Or somebody.
Somebody, yeah, exactly. And I thought since they're not necessarily working on the weekend, that kind of works better. You don't have to bring an employee in, and you can still during the week while they are working, you could have them come. But obviously, like we said, once that confined space is gone, it eliminates the entire issue. And it's just, I don't want to put my company at risk either, sending someone down into a manhole, but I also don't have the personnel or the ability, being a small company, to dedicate 2 people here every single day. And, without making it cost an absurd amount. And I still think, even what I did propose, I think is kind of the higher end, but it's just right now with the limited number of water systems I have, in order to make it, in order to make the overhead work with Mike and I, that's kind of what it had to be. Down the road, I'm, I don't know if I should totally say it, but, it could come down when I do have other systems to take the burden of the overhead. But for right now, it's, I just don't have the revenue from other places to have that come down. And again, I don't know if this is something also that you have to put out to bid because you're technically a municipality, or,
Yeah,
and I also don't know how many other people you're gonna get to do it right now. I don't know how many companies or people are free.
I mean, I think we have a lot to kind of think about and chew on here, but I think everyone here knows, I mean, we're in a pretty interesting situation right now, and we're just thankful that we've had people that have been able to fill in the gap. But we know that we need to do something and do something soon, and I think that is something we as a board would need to talk about, is kind of that competitive bidding process as a municipality kind of thing. And like you said, at least from what I've heard, there's not a lot of people knocking doors down to get into this business, unfortunately, right now. So, and I think making that decision to going from a town employee to a contract is something that we want to make sure that we really think through. So kind of having this contract and having you here tonight is, at least for me, very helpful to understand. So I don't know, other thoughts that folks.
I'm just wondering if we
Yeah, and I mean, I would,
have
sorry.
a decision from A&R, like reviewing the municipality permitting, or reviewing the permitting that we have
Right.
to make certain,
That something like this would work.
yes.
Yeah.
And I would also, I'm sure you guys probably feel the same way, would recommend starting out with just a 1-year contract to just basically see how things go and reassess after that, on both sides.
Would 1 year be the least amount of time?
In terms of Mike's security.
Yeah, I think because-
Yeah, probably, yeah. I don't want to do less than that.
Yeah, we certainly, we have a lot to kind of chew on, I think. I guess for me, this is good to understand both the cost range that we'd be looking at and the services that we'd be providing. You said this is your own company, and that basically we'd be looking at, one of the two of you would be operating our water or sewer plant. It's not like, it's not like you're a big company and it could be, employee 107 that shows up. We'd be looking at either of the two of you that would be taking care of our systems.
Yeah.
So.
And it's, also in terms of other things, because I know I talked a lot about water, but in terms of the wastewater too, just like Mike and I did when it came to the gearbox, I think both of us are perfectly capable of solving situations like that. I would continue to want to do that. To me, that's what a water or wastewater operator does, is handle small issues like that. If anything, at some point we actually do want to replace the bearings for the rotor in the canal, that type of thing is totally within our capabilities, and I think an operator should be performing without having to contract that out. And so, it's really, when it comes to contracting something out, as far as I'm concerned, it's really probably excavating, unless we figure something out with Rick doing it, or it's like the cleaning of the water tank. There's actual certified professionals that come in and know how to do it. You know, anything to do with the wells in terms of redevelopment or cleaning, anything like that. I would,
Changing pumps or stuff.
changing
yeah.
pumps, stuff like that. I would definitely want to, you know, have an actual professional come and do that type of thing. I think that's beyond, you know, an operator.
I haven't had a chance to, is that kind of spelled out, at least to some degree? So
To
we at least
some degree,
understand the
I
basics of
definitely-
what is included and what wouldn't be.
Yeah, I definitely think as we move forward with this, more specifics should get brought into it for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate that this is just kind of a rough proposal that
Yeah.
you're floating before us tonight to kind of see, you know, where we may be at, and certainly it's pretty beneficial to see this written down and have us be able to understand, and you know, we recognize that we have to figure something out quickly, and I'm looking at Mike, as he's getting ready to leave and drive all night long, so,
Well, yeah, what my goal would be to pretty much be provide you with the same service that you think you would get from an employee, essentially. You know, I want to even help create asset management plans so that you can, you know, actually change things out over the years and not be set up with all of a sudden you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff that needs to be swapped out in 1 year, or, you know, even more minuscule things like chlorine pumps or whatnot. It's like they have a useful life, and in reality, you should be spending a little bit of money every, you know, so often to replace stuff like that. And, you know, I got a background in business, and you know, that was part of why I was on the office side of stuff in Woodstock and doing a lot of that stuff. And I think that I can, you know, help provide you guys with that type of stuff. And I think it's totally an operator's responsibility to help gather that information of what is the stuff we're using every day and how often should it be replaced, and then, you know, basically give you that information so you guys can figure out budgets and what you need to allocate to, you know, to the systems, to not end up 20 years down the road.
Right.
Like Woodstock is, to be quite honest. 100 years down the road.
and that's something on our agenda for later is a conversation I was having with Casey I need to update the board on, which is the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and the potential to maybe get on a list for some funding for things like chemical pumps or
Right.
replacing the whole chemical room as an example, so. Any other questions for these gentlemen right now? Is there anything else that you guys want to offer? We're meeting tonight, obviously, town meeting is March 7th, and as 4 pretty new members to the board, we're kind of trying to navigate all of that, but that's only a couple of weeks away. I'm thinking, you know, later we have some personnel issues to discuss, and I guess we need to deliberate a little bit on what our next steps might be, but understanding that we don't want to sit on the issue of getting, whether it's contract or town employees, we can't sit long on that. We need to move forward so that we've been very fortunate to this point, but we need to make some decisions and move on, at least is my thought.
Yeah, I agree.
So, appreciate this. If there's other things, we can make sure that you have, you know, all the board's email addresses. If you had information that you just wanted to send that we would obviously be considered in a board meeting, we can make sure you have that. And if you have any questions, I guess I'll offer, they can ask me if unless someone else from the board, and I can just, okay. So you know, if you have anything, just let me know and I can make sure that I keep the board up to speed if that's good with the rest of the board. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
thank you both very much, not only for being here tonight, but for keeping things moving.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you.
Very much.
I think it's supposed to be pretty much fair. Okay. Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Safe travels, Mike.
Yeah.
And the only other thing under that agenda item was, position update, to which honestly, I had worked on the draft. I think that I'd sent out, and I worked a little bit more on the draft, and I don't have a full draft of a position specification to send out, and
It's all right.
I think we can talk about that a little bit more later in terms of where we move forward with that. Rick, thanks for being here. I've got like 3 agendas going here, and I don't know which one. I keep writing on one of them.
Take one, Kathy.
Sorry. So Rick, thanks for coming tonight. I guess the one thing, and I put this on the agenda, and I'm glad you're here. The 110 paving project update. Karen had forwarded along to me an email from V-Trans. They were looking for our utility maps within water and sewer, because V-Trans is scheduled to pave basically from the southern bridge north to Washington currently it's 2024, I believe. And so that kind of got me to thinking about what the town of Chelsea may have. We need to get their maps, and actually I talked to Mike. I've got to call Otter Creek to see if I can get digital copies, if Otter Creek has digital copies of our utilities, because when they pave through, there's maybe water shutoffs or sewer manholes or something that are within the limits of paving, and they need to make sure they know where they are. It would be a cost to us, whatever adjustments they need to make to them, but that's one thing. But I also got to thinking about just different things that we may want to consider asking of V-Trans within the paving project. And Rick, I know, I mean, one of the things is, I know at least the last time, and maybe the last couple of times that the village has been paved, the paving hasn't extended, as an example, out to the curb line here in front of the town offices, which I came to see Karen one day last week, and it was just snow melt, but right where you step out of your vehicle is the low spot, and there was 6 inches water sitting there, kind of thing. So what's that? I'm sorry.
Main Street is tight out here, and it's all broke up. It
Right.
should be repaved.
So one of the things that I was contemplating was maybe seeing if we could get the V-Trans project manager to come to town someday and just walk it, and whoever from the board that wanted to, and you, Rick, and just kind of we walk through the village part, just see what there is and see what might be available for them to incorporate in the project or not. But at least we could have the discussion and make sure if there are things we wanted, we had the opportunity for them to say yes or no, kind of thing. Yeah. So if that made sense to you, Rick.
Oh, definitely.
If that's good with folks, I don't mind coordinating that. We've got some time, but
This isn't until next year they're doing it?
it's right now, it's 2024, I believe, yes. So originally it was going to be this coming summer, but it's pretty sure it's next year.
Oh,
So
another year.
yes,
Every time I go up to Washington, up over the heights, it's like, oh my.
Yeah.
yes. Understood. So if I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to ask Rick if that would be something that you wouldn't mind joining it. Are there things in particular, Rick, that you can think of that we would want to ask for that maybe have or haven't been done over the years?
Well, definitely in front of the commons, in front of here, paving to the curb.
Yep.
And then there's a drain out here on the corner that's, the water always sits before it. So
Good.
I don't know if we need to move the drain, or maybe they can pave it so it will run better to the drain.
Yeah, I don't know if there may be even others up through that.
Yeah,
I think there's one right in the fire station driveway
yeah,
that I don't know if that's within the state right away or if that's ours, but it's kind of a
yeah.
hole there. Oh yeah, you know where it is.
Yep.
Are there other things? I mean, I want to invite them to town and give us an opportunity to walk through. I just didn't know if there's things that right off the top of your head that.
Nothing I can think think of right now.
Okay, and not, sorry to put you on the spot.
Last time they did they paved up through here. We had to pay to have the apron done on the upper village. They wouldn't do that. We had to pay $5,000 to have it done. I don't know if they'll do it this time or not.
We'll ask. Yeah, for sure. So, were folks okay if I kind of coordinate that and I'll let?
Yep.
I've been on the other end of many of those meetings over the years. And then position update. Lena, I think it sounds like maybe you were ahead of me in terms of drafting up a position. I didn't know if you wanted to give us an update.
So I have a draft, and I had 2 copies that I kind of handed out somewhere. I should have brought more, but my printer wasn't working very good.
Oh, you did, okay.
And I had talked to Rick about some things that we thought should be included, and then I just need some edits and input, and I can finish it.
That's about adding, I'm so sorry. That's about adding, needing a medical card, and I only looked through that quickly. Is that in there?
I'm sorry, Kat, what was that?
Thoughts about requiring a medical card.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
So if you have a CDL, you're required to have a medical card, but if you work for a municipality,
You don't.
you don't have to have the
Oh,
medical
okay.
card to go along with your CDL.
Oh, okay.
Just a
Sure.
thought. I don't know what.
Do you have thoughts on that? Gotcha.
You what?
I don't have a medical card.
Is it additional training or is it additional?
I think it's
No.
a
No,
physical.
It's a physical.
Physical.
I used to get them, but then municipalities exempt, so I've been healthy, so I've.
Municipalities don't have to do that.
You're bringing it up. So just, I got it now, yeah.
It just, it's, hearing is included in that.
Yeah. I know that, I think over my time at V-Trans, there's been some opportunities, if you will, to make, that have presented themselves because people had to have that medical card to make sure that, I don't feel strongly one way, one way or another to others. I mean, it seems like it's a good idea.
I think that's how I feel, of like, why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Lena, Bill, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really have a strong opinion either way. It probably wouldn't hurt anything, that's for sure, but.
Well, it's kind of the fit for duty.
Yeah.
Kind of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Rick, do you have thoughts one way or the other, or?
So you're just saying the new hire has to have a medical card, or all of them?
Well, I think what we're talking about tonight is just this position that we'd be putting out, just requiring it.
Yeah, doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I probably should go to the doctors and have physical, but.
Right. I haven't had a chance to look at this, but I mean, so Rick, have you had a chance
There's
to?
a couple things that I knew that the wording needed to be slightly different, but I wasn't
Okay.
quite sure how to.
And what about,
I needed to, I don't have a copy in front of me, but, in, what is it, job?
Here, if you'll
Oh,
notice.
sorry, then I can.
No, that's okay.
Down in the minimum qualifications, I wasn't exactly sure what we wanted to put in there for that, so that it's pretty general, and then, so definitely input on that. Yeah, and I wasn't sure, like, so chloriding isn't a word, but like, what do you call it, just to go chloride the road, or is there a term that you use describing that job? Chloride the road. Okay.
Dust control.
Dust control, okay.
And what about, I mean, do we think we need to have some sort of radius as far as how far away you can live to do this job?
I mean, I think it'd be nice to have somebody,
I agree.
Yeah,
Is that,
You
do
know,
you,
if they're coming from Montpelier or something, so, yeah.
do other towns have that? Do we know?
don't
that's what I know of.
think so.
It's possible Berrytown did.
Something for us.
Fire departments, like Berry City, and they, you know, you have to be like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that's a bad idea, just
Right.
as hard as it is to find people
Right.
though, it's one of the, there's a
Right.
balance point in
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, no,
I mean, we could put it as a, you know, ideally live close by, but if we had a great candidate
Preferred,
that didn't mind driving,
Right.
yeah, it just doesn't work out very good in there.
right. I mean,
45
ideally, what is like a distance that, like, or, you know, time frame?
15, 20 minutes is not bad. I wouldn't want to go further than that.
30 minutes feels too long.
Try it and see. I mean, we've had them, you know, we had a guy live in Williamstown. I mean, he'd just sleep in his car when we had storms in the garage, so. And we had a guy from Sharon. He just, like, if you got a tree down or something, that's, you're waiting and waiting and waiting.
I was gonna say, probably, like, how often would you call them in without advance notice? Does that happen often, or?
Depends on the weather, depends, you know, when you have a windstorm or, I mean, you get freak trees, I mean, I get sometimes calls from state police in the middle of the night for a tree down, you know? And in the daytime,
Do you always handle that?
wow, like the one we had on the county road, John and I both went and took care of it. Yeah, if it's in the middle of the night, I mean, if it's during the day, I'll do it myself, because it's no different than when you're plowing snow, you come onto a tree, you gotta move it, but in the middle of the night, I used to, but I don't anymore, because, yeah, it's not, something happens, especially like on the county road,
Yeah.
there's nobody out there,
Yeah. You're on the
So-
county road, middle of January,
yeah,
2 in the morning.
so, yeah, I don't do that anymore.
So are we getting to a point where, Lynn, if you email this to us, we could all just take a quick look and give you feedback and thoughts, and we can get it, so we can get the job posted, is that?
Yeah, and then, yeah, I just at some point wanna discuss the ad talk about what we wanna include in the ad, and then we can hopefully get it in the paper next week.
Okay. Yep. I mean, we have some staffing things to talk about, or personnel things under the executive session.
Rick, did you wanna look at this? I can send it to you too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can take a look at it, but I'd wanna make sure that Rick has
Yeah.
looked at it and said,
Yeah.
yeah, that looks reasonable to you. Anything else on this item? Maybe we can leave here with the goal of, any tweaks to it, we'll email to Lena and she can work.
I think get an ad in the paper, and that'll give you a little time to tweak that anyway.
Okay.
At some point, we'll have to discuss about the mowing and all that stuff for the summer. Before you know it, it's summer, and
Right,
I don't wanna have it, worry about that.
right.
Yep.
Well, I mean, if we're good on the position, the next was kind of just general highway updates, and it might be good to have, at least start that discussion now, Rick, in terms of what your thoughts are in terms of mowing, and I know there's been an ebb and flow over the years, I'm not that familiar with it.
Well, right now, we're just Paul and I won't have time to mow. If we hire another guy, I mean, I think we could probably do some of the mowing. I don't know if we would want to do it all, you know.
A detail, but what's the history? How did that, like,
Well,
I remember seeing other people mow different places, and then I know the last few years we haven't. I'm just kind of curious, like, what was the reason for the switch?
Because we had a 20-hour a week position at the sewer plant and 20 hours a week for the highway. So we actually had, Paul was part-time and the other guy was part-time. Then we had our 2 full-time. So I was like, why not offset, you know, the part-time, give him some more, you know, so we didn't have to pay so much out, but we could save a little money on the mowing. And it worked out good, but then they left. But so last year we didn't have anybody, and so that's why I was mowing last year.
Roughly how much time does it take you to mow and trim?
Usually 12 to 13 hours a week.
And that, what areas are you doing when you mow? Sorry.
Well, you got all the water and sewer, you got the water tank, all the pump houses, town hall, tennis court, the parks, you got all the FEMA properties, you got the Chelsea sign on up on 113, and then 3 times a year we have to do the bank at the water tank. And then we do up to the transfer station. We usually do that once a month, trim up there. And then the bank down where the old sand pile is, get the mow and trim that.
I was just gonna ask, when that stuff was subbed out, did the guys do all that stuff that you listed, or did they only do some of it and you still did some stuff, or?
No, you mean way back? No, the only thing we did is the transfer station. Yeah, we didn't do anything else.
So this question's related, but it might not seem that way. Like who, like all the branches in the park that have come down from the storm, where does that, like, who, is that Parks Committee? Is that Highway that is?
We usually pick them up.
Yeah, and I really am not yes, okay. But where my mind is going is like, so you do more than Highway? You do like Highway and grounds or something?
Does everything right now.
Sewer plant.
And sewer plant, fills in its
But
transfer station.
but I think where my mind is going is like, okay, so like, do we need somebody that did, that does the mowing and
Shoveling.
the shoveling,
Snow blowing and the.
Public Works, but without creating a whole Public Works department, but just somebody that would do like grounds? Is that something that we need? And that person would, the mowing could go there. trash cans, I don't know, I'm assuming you probably empty trash cans.
Yeah, we have to put the rec field in the commons.
Right, and so all of that kind of stuff, if we kind of looked at, I don't know, somebody, you know.
That's
is-
why when we had the 20-hour week, that's what, they did all that.
And in the winter time, what do they do in the winter?
They did the sidewalks and shoveled the town hall. And then he'd run the pickup here and there, or whatever we needed him to do. You know, like on Fridays, Paul wouldn't work Fridays, and Zeb had a CDL, so he'd sand on Fridays, or whatever, if we needed him.
Yeah, I don't know, I just wonder if it's,
Well, I mean, I think that also, depending on what happens with the sewer plant, is that part-time sewer plant person could potentially be part-time sewer plant and mowing and grounds and
Right.
sidewalks, depending on what we decide to do,
Right.
Right.
you know. Because then that would be a full-time person, and it wouldn't affect Rick's full-time crew that he
Yeah.
needs for the roads, or his two full-time, one part-time
I
guy.
assume 12 to 13 hours a week of your time mowing kind of puts a hit on what you can accomplish in the summer that you want to do on the roads.
Well, sometimes it was hard to do, but then, I mean, last year really wasn't it, because situation last year, you know, we didn't grade much, but yeah, there's some weeks that it'd be hard to do. I mean, there's times in, you know, July and August, you don't grade a lot anyways because it's so dry. So the mowing wasn't that big a deal, but.
But it certainly sounds like you're suggesting that we look for a different option.
Well, if we're not gonna find any help, I mean, Paul's pretty much a truck driver, you know, so I have to do all the maintenance and, you know, pretty much everything else, so for me to do all that and keep up with mowing and stuff, unless we get somebody else, it's gonna be pretty hard to do.
If we were to fill that other position, just assume that we had that position filled, do you think that would be a burden to do the mowing and trimming, or should we consider looking at a contractor, looking at another, just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that, like, just assume that, you know, April 15th, we had a new full-time employee for you kind of thing.
No, I don't think so. I mean, if anything, maybe like the rec field, they could just put that out to bid. And then, because they pay it anyways, and then we could do all the town properties. I mean, because the rec field's about 4 hours to do that.
12 to 13 hours is the rec field, yeah.
And that's not wasting much time either to get everything done, 12, 13.
And did you do the ball field at the school too?
No,
Okay,
Brian Farm does that.
okay.
he does that through. Okay, so the Gould Fund actually pays for that.
Yeah.
Anything else, just general stuff, Rick, that we should know about, or you're concerned about, or you have questions for us?
Not right now. I mean, everything seems to be going all right. We hauled a few loads out of South Barry to fix a few spots. We got a few loads from Tunbridge today. And just because the pit can't open till next week, and there was a few that needed a little bit of material. Especially, I mean, if it weren't gonna snow, I mean, it might be different, but it's snow, I didn't wanna leave them like that, so. We got them tuned up pretty good. Today I was able to scratch some of them, but they're not too bad.
We can plow in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few places that,
I think going forward, it would probably make sense if we had a location to put up some materials so that we don't have to go to Barry if McCullough's isn't gonna be open. I know there's not a lot of room at the town garage, but I didn't know if where the logs are piled currently down there, if that would be a spot to put it in the winter to have it on hand for things like this versus driving to Barry to get material. If going forward it made sense to put up, I don't know, what do you think you would be? Do you think that makes sense?
I think it'd be a good idea to put like 1,500 yards down here, and you could wait till like, you know, late in November. You know, I mean, the pit's open till the end of December, so, you know, the later the better probably. Get it, as long as it didn't snow. And put it down here and then just have it out of there in the spring. So it wouldn't be there in the summer. You know, I mean,
What is the big problem with having it there in the summer?
well, I just figured with sports and a lot of people park there and all that kind of thing.
There definitely was some that didn't like the idea of the sand pile being down there, so I think it's a potentially sensitive
It's in a
issue.
floodplain,
Well, that's a good
and
point
can
too.
you
It is
actually
in the
even store
floodplain.
anything in a floodplain?
That is an issue now that it's gone, that we might have to,
We had some down there last year. The state donated their trucks, so we stockpiled some down there. And there was a few people that complained about it.
Or maybe another location, but the idea is to put some up so that when we have
Yeah,
these
like-
winter thaws, so that we have some easily accessible instead of having to drive that far to haul material.
because the pit doesn't open until March 1st, that's their permit. I mean, I think definitely something we can and should talk more about.
I mean, there is a couple options down at the garage. There's, behind the chloride tank there, digging some of that bank out there. You know, and then, or digging some of the bank out as you're coming down the hill by the garage on the right there. Yeah. Because we have a little pile on top, which we didn't have any money last, so we didn't put any up last fall, but it's like 100 yards there. But the problem where it is, the side toward the East Randolph Road is, there's still snow on it. I mean, it's always froze. The other side, the sun hits good, but, so I don't know if maybe we could dig some of that bank out so we could dump off and be able to hit it on the side with the sun.
I mean, I forget, somebody said 1,500 yards, is that?
Well, I just figured, you know, by the time you figured chunks and, you know,
How much gravel do you use usually during the wet season, kind of thing, Rick, or?
well, last year we used pretty much our whole budget.
How many yards are just roughly?
We probably used 5,000 yards last year.
Which obviously was an exceptional year, but.
You know, like, this week we just Band-Aided a few spots and just dragged it with the grader as far as I could drag it, just to kind of half fill them in and to get by. But
So certainly having some smaller amount to Landis point that
oh, it'd definitely be nice.
we could put up in warmer weather that we wouldn't be.
I mean, if we're gonna if we're gonna keep having these warm-ups in the winter.
First,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
I would, excuse me. I would encourage us to look down at the town garage first, I think, as to see if there's an option to be able to put stuff down there before we kind of looked down near the sewer plant.
Yeah, right across from Dick and Betty's, there's an area there that they didn't get dug out there, and they were supposed to put a row of hedges out through there, but, which they did, Pete Amber did, but they're not mounting to anything. So, I mean, I don't think they're ever gonna mount to anything, so I think right in there wouldn't be a bad idea to dig some of that out there. And then you could dump some in there. We can look at it this summer and see.
Rick, if, I guess, I don't know how others feel, but maybe if you could kind of look at that and evaluate it and see what you might, what work would have to be done and, you know, how much space we could have for it. I mean, it seems like a reasonable idea to not be having a truck from Berrytown or.
Well, I say to McCullough's every time, because they gotta call the state to get permission to go in there, and I said, you know, I wouldn't think the state would have a problem with it, because nowadays, everything they want green and to be environmentally, you know, everything. For us to haul out of Barry, that's not very, helping the environment very well. When you're spending all the extra fuel, you know, when we got a pit right in town, there's no reason. They always keep telling me to call your representatives.
It's a permit.
Yeah, a permit that they,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's.
I think it had something to do with the neighbors at the time when they put it in there. Can't recall, but.
Permit, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is to do with the I-250.
So how would the representatives fix that?
They,
Up in Montpelier,
they,
they could change the permit processes,
right.
make it
Okay.
easier,
Yeah.
make it easier to get into a pit
Yeah.
Got it.
in those 2 months. I mean, like this year, it's only a week early. It would have been a week early, you know. But
So was mud season half over, Rick, or?
I wish.
I think we all do.
In a few spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see, right?
The spot up through by Buckerman's that was bad last year didn't even hardly wet up, so.
Right, yeah. I drove through there the other day and recalled what it was like last year. It hasn't moved, so. Anything else, Rick, or from anybody else for Rick? I mean, it's snowing, we don't wanna hold you up for the next few days, are gonna be more snow, so.
Just kind of in the future, we, like with replacing equipment, with our trucks. I don't know if we're gonna change the terms or what, but right now, it's almost 2 years before you can get a truck. So, like Paul's truck's 8 years old in July, so if we're gonna stay on our 10-year schedule, it's something we're gonna have to be thinking about to get it ordered. So we get it, we don't keep it that extra year and end up putting 30 grand into it like the last one.
Would it make sense to maybe dedicate a portion of our agenda later in March and ask Rick to come back? And maybe Rick, you could come through and, you know, give us a list of what we have for equipment, how old it is, and kind of your thoughts of what they are. I mean, I don't know what we have or what we need or how old it is, and I mean, I know, you know, kind of that. It would be the beginnings of us working together with you on kind of a capital equipment, you know, plan, I guess, if you will, so that we could see what we've got and see what we've got.
Asset management plan.
Yeah, an asset
asset management plan.
An asset management plan, they used it earlier, yeah. An asset management plan, you know, just kind of a capital equipment.
Yeah.
This is what it is, so that we could start thinking about what we have in our accounts, and obviously town meeting's in a few weeks, but next year at town meeting, like, what should we be asking the voters for, and being able to kind of put that out there. So
Right.
would that be something, Rick, that,
Well, equipment, we have the money set aside for equipment, so you don't have to ask the townspeople, but, you know.
But is that something you could come
Oh,
to?
yeah.
If we, act, you know, if we said, and we looked at our agendas and obviously it's snowing or if it's terrible middle of mud season, we can defer you from an agenda, but, maybe sooner than later, it might be wise to dedicate a good portion of one of our meetings to, hey, let's make some decision on who's gonna mow and who's gonna do this and equipment, and obviously we gotta get the position filled. Would that make sense to everybody if we tried to do that?
You said something about replacing the loader too, right?
Well, it'll be 23 years old in December, so at some point we'll have to do something.
Maybe, do you think that the truck's sooner than the loader, or they're gonna end up sort of on the same time frame?
Well, we can get a truck for 2 years.
But we could get a loader sooner than that if we needed one.
Oh yeah, you can get loaders,
Okay.
but, I'm just thinking the truck that, so we get at least ordered, so within that 10-year cycle. So we don't have to, because that truck's actually got 110,000 miles on it, and knock on wood, it's been a good truck, so I don't wanna have to dump a bunch of money into it.
What do you think about the 10-year cycle? Do you think that's too long or too short or just right, or?
I've always been a pusher for, you can get a 7-year warranty, buy a truck for 7 years, have a warranty, and let it go. So that way there you can budget better, because most of the stuff will be under, the big stuff will be under warranty. You know, like the motor goes, transmission, whatever, it's not gonna be $30,000, it's covered under warranty. You know, some trucks, it's fine to go 10 years on it, you know, some you don't have that much trouble with, and then the last one was a problem from the day one, and everybody knew about it, but nothing ever got done about it. But because the international, that max force was just problems.
That they were.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
you win some, lose some, you know.
If it's anything like the vehicles that I own, it's usually within a month or 3 after they're finally paid off and there's no warranty that something bad breaks, so. So maybe like our March 21st meeting, we could put some, kind of have it highway heavy, if you will, and you know, at that point, hopefully we'll have our position is out there, maybe we'll have candidates, maybe we'll have an update. But Rick, if you could, you know, just put together, it just says, hey, here's the list of equipment we have, here's how old it is, and here's the urgency on this or that kind of thing. But we, Okay,
We've
cool.
always had a list
Okay.
of the equipment.
Yep.
But I can bring all that whenever you want.
Yep. And, I mean, if the 21st works for you, obviously, but we'll be flexible too, obviously, if we put you on the agenda, we got a snowstorm or it's been hellacious mud or whatever, just say, hey, do you mind putting me off to the next meeting or whatever? But, you know, maybe we can talk about mowing and kind of hone in on what we need to do there, so that if we have to put some contracts out, we can. You know, we can talk about the gravel piece. I wanted to, sorry, Bill, you keep.
No, go
So,
ahead.
and I wanted to mention, Rick, tonight too, the V-Trans grant, and I'll come back to that, but maybe we could talk about that there. You know, you've mentioned sand in the past, how much sand have we used, how much sand do we have to put up? At that point, hopefully, you'll have a good idea where we're at, how much sand we got down there, and how much we need to put up.
I haven't had all of that. Well, it's not perfect because you don't know exactly how much.
Right.
Everybody brings back, but you know, rough idea.
Yeah. And then one thing that I wanted to throw out, and I've been meaning to catch up with you, Rick, but I thought I'd wait and bother you once winter was over, but, you know, just kind of, and I think the previous board may have talked about, like, looking at a long-term plan for the roads, you know? Are there things where, not necessarily not saying what you're doing, but like, you know, Williamstown, as an example, made a decision to look at a plan and raise some money and fix some of their back roads, and is that something that we should or could do? It's just something that I think would be good for us to talk about and get your thoughts on and that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, Williamstown puts 100,000 every year to a certain spot on a road.
Right.
Like South Hill, they did 4 or 5 years ago there.
Right. Yeah, and just kind of that conversation to see if we want to be thinking about that and start doing some longer term planning on how we might want to address those kinds of things, so. Sorry, Bill, I kept cutting you off.
Good. Do you guys think that we should talk about the mowing thing before March? Because I'm just thinking if we don't get that ball rolling and maybe Rick can't make that meeting before you know it, the grass is growing and
Well, that's a good point.
we got nobody to cut it.
Well, we've got tonight, March 7th or March 21st. And
You don't have March 7th.
we don't have March 7th. We've got the meeting after March 7th, which is our organizational meeting, so.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know, can we make a decision tonight, or? Should,
Well, the thing is mowing, I mean, if I have to mow one time, or, I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world, you know what I mean, I can do it. I mean, if we didn't get it out to, like, say we decide not to do it, we didn't get it out to bid, and somebody didn't start till May, I mean, if I had to do a few times, it's not like it's.
but like maybe to Bill's point, should we just say, let's consider contracting out someone to do the Heathfield as an example? Is that kind of what you were getting at, or?
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to get into a situation where everybody's taking all the work that they're going to for the summer and we can't, you know,
We can't find somebody.
can't find somebody.
That's a good point, something I hadn't thought about, so. Should we consider putting out at least a portion of, I think I heard Rick say, maybe I didn't hear you right, but you know, that if the Heathfield's 4 hours, if we could find somebody to do that, that would be a pretty significant chunk of time.
Right, I mean, I think it's really how much you want us to take off your plate is what we would be putting out to bid, you know?
Money on my plate.
Right,
If you
But
don't
I
have,
don't mind doing it either, I mean, I didn't mind it last year.
right,
and especially if you had
Different, you know.
another employee.
Your previous board had put an RFP out. They only received one reply back, and I can go hunt that up if you want.
Okay.
But I don't know where they were in the process of finishing it.
They put it out.
They put the bid.
For last year?
For this upcoming year,
Oh, really?
yes.
Oh. Yeah.
I don't know where they've left in the process. I'd have to
Well,
go
if
and
you
look.
don't, if you don't mind finding
Yeah.
that at some point and sending it to us, I think that would be helpful, because it might be easy to look at what they did and make a fairly quick decision at our next meeting.
sure.
Does
I
that,
didn't know they put it out, I think they got prices from
They-
Jeremy Farnham, but,
From who?
Jeremy Farnham, Jerf?
Yes, they did. Somewhere.
Yeah, I thought they
I-
just got prices from him, what it would
I don't
cost,
know if
but.
he actually submitted a
Oh, yeah, I don't know
paper,
either.
or I'd have to go look.
So, did it go out to bid, or?
I want to say the RFP went out, but, I mean, I wasn't the AA back then, so. I can look and see if, I put one together for Mark, and I can go see if an ad was put out for it.
so it sounds like maybe something that we could put on the agenda for our next meeting
Yeah,
and reach a point. Sounds like we're kind of rallying around somewhere, you know, it sounds like maybe not
I'll see what's in the
nothing,
office.
but not everything, or somewhere in between. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else, Rick? Oh, Rick, I did want to mention, and I was gonna, follow up with you at some point, just V-Trans grants. And we don't have to go through it in detail tonight, but I forget when the deadline is for them. I know we have the paving grant for the East Randolph Road.
Yeah, I've talked to Pike on that, and he's getting back to me on that. I gotta meet with him tomorrow. And, hopefully, I told him it'd be nice to get on the schedule like May or June to do that.
So what are the limits of that?
What's that?
What's the limits of the paving for the East Randolph Road?
You mean how much?
Yeah,
Well, we got 175,000 from the state, and then we got, it depends if we get the money from the town this year. You know, it's in the budget, but if we get it, it should be about 400 and, I think it's 425 that we'll have to use up there.
based on what we have for, in the town paving fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fund and the grant, which the grant has to be used by this fall.
So, has it got a bid on it, or?
He's supposed to be meeting with me tomorrow, and then he was gonna give me a price on it to do it. And he said he thought it was gonna be around $82, $83 a ton. Cause I had talked to, oh gosh, can't remember that other outfit last year I talked to. Hutchins, and they wanted $110 a ton last year. I'm like, we'll put it off for another year.
So how does that work historically? Do we kind of do we put an RFP out and say bid on this, or how have you done that historically?
We pretty much we used to use Blacktop years ago, but we pretty much give it to Pike usually. I mean, we can,
Just all depends on what day you hit some of those paving guys up on, and if they're busy or not busy, depending on their price, right?
yeah, usually Pike's, in the past anyway, they've always been the cheapest usually, but.
Who are you meeting with?
Caleb, O'Connor. Yeah, I mean, I don't care if we put it up to bid.
I just didn't know if we've done that historically or not, I mean.
No, never. Usually our
Good competition.
culverts or bridges, we do that, we put them out to bid. The grants and aid, last year we hired Tad, the year before we hired Dranlos because they're the only ones we could get.
To do some of the.
Grants and aid, ditching,
Yeah.
stone line ditches.
So, what about a bridge grant? Is that, I mean, I forget what the deadline
You
is.
mean as far as filling out for a bridge grant?
Yeah, the 175 grand.
We don't have any bridges right now that need to, other than sometime on Maple Avenue, but we wouldn't have the match for that anyway, so.
I'm just looking at some of the inspection reports, and some of them all have little things kind of thing. There's nothing big, a wing wall here or something like that, if it would make sense to bundle and get some money and pick some of those things up. But
Yeah, usually, I mean, we've had to go through them, like on the Jenkins Brook there, we've had, there was some scouring down by the abutment. We had to go in there and move some stones around, little stuff. We had to put guardrails on them up there. We used to have the cables, things like that, but.
we got that town funds, grant funds, or is there?
That, stuff like that, little stuff, yeah, we pretty much did it with town funds.
Okay. Well, maybe we can talk more about that at the meeting on the
Yeah.
21st or something.
As far as anything major on the bridges. I don't know of anything that's,
I didn't see anything major, I just saw.
yeah.
What looked like maybe a few little things here or there that maybe it would make sense to fix up, and if we could get it as part of a grant, then even better.
Actually, there is one, speaking of bridges, somebody hit the Muxley Bridge. And they went through it and came back through it because the boards toward Tony's there's one pushed out. That side it didn't, it only pushed that one board out. And then there's a couple braces that are cracked from it. And then on the, I don't know what end that would be. Well, anyways, the other end is, they broke the 2x4 that holds the boards on. I mean, nothing that's structurally a problem, but it's gonna have to be addressed this summer, you know, just to fix it, or spring, whatever. I mean, the structure is all, I mean, everything's still safe. I mean, it's not.
Yeah. Well, there was a project to do some, V-Trans has a project, I know there was some work done, but there's a few other, I don't remember what it is, but.
They've done about everything they could to that bridge. I don't know.
I don't remember the exact, but there's a couple of things that were left behind, if you will, that maybe were a little more extensive than the last project kind of thing, so.
Oh.
Sorry, I kept going.
Usually nobody admits to that stuff anyway.
What's that?
Nobody admits to hitting the bridge,
Yeah.
normally. Been quite a few over the years.
Yeah. But there was nothing structured, done
No.
the bridge inspection or anything. Cool.
The Flint Bridge and Tunbridge area, they're always hitting boards on that.
Yeah.
More than put one up and then one will be cracked or broke or.
Right. Anything else for Rick? All right.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
You too. Hopefully mud season will be over next time we see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
See you, Rick.
Do we want to jump back up to approving minutes? And I know Karen had sent along, are these are copies of the minutes?
Yeah. I make a folder on them. I put your draft in,
Oh,
put
okay.
your revisions, and
Yep.
put your final.
I had reviewed them and sent some thoughts to Karen, nothing major, just a couple of clarifications. I think I copied everybody on them. Oh, I meant to forward, but just a little bit off topic, but I was reading the League of Cities and Towns open meeting law, and I'm gonna send the page that I was reading, because there's a lot, but there's one section that really talks about what we can and can't do, like editing minutes, drafting agendas, that kind of stuff that we can do that's not making decisions or budgetary decisions or that kind of stuff, so.
This one, Ken?
Yeah, it probably was, I forget exactly what it was, but I just happened to pick it up because I printed it out when I first got on the board, and I just happened to pick it up the other night, I was reading it, and I went, oh, that might be helpful, so I'll make sure I send it along to everybody, but.
I've done your paperwork already. I think when you came in, I gave you a copy of this.
Well, it may have been what I picked up is what you gave us, Karen, so.
It's very handy. I bring it with me now.
I mean, these are the minutes from those two meetings, I had reviewed them, I was good with them. If everybody's good with them, is there a motion?
The date was January 31st.
January 31st
February 7th.
and February 7th.
I move to approve January 31st minutes with adjustments made.
No, there were no
Okay.
adjustments.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now the February 7th minutes.
I move to accept the February 7th minutes with the edits made.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Who seconded that,
Kelly.
Kelly?
Kelly did, yep.
Invoices.
Next on the agenda was the administrative assistant position update. Kelly and Bill, one of you want to?
We have hired, or offered, we've hired an administrative assistant to start, I believe, March 2nd, the first day.
March 2nd? Okay.
That's the informational town meeting day, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we've filled one position.
Did you say she's, March 2nd she starts?
Yes. She'll be at the informational meeting doing minutes.
Okay, just needed to know.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Somebody will be here to do minutes. Karen.
Kevin, Gail had told me she wasn't starting until the 7th, so I just was concerned.
So her first evening will be March 2nd to be at that meeting to
Okay.
take minutes.
Thank you.
And then she starts full the following Monday.
Awesome.
Yeah. Which I think is the 6th, right? Yes, she'll start her first full day will be on the 6th of March. Sorry, Bill.
Anything else on,
Clearly.
anything else on that one?
No, great.
Thank you.
guys for doing
Thank you.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Grants, and I apologize, Casey and I talked, and I didn't specifically ask her to come tonight, so that's on me, not her. But I can give you just a little bit of update. She's been super helpful. We had a few conversations last week. The sidewalk project update, we were getting ready to put it out to bid. Casey and I talked, she got the file and just went through some things, just making sure the paperwork was there in terms of, had the property owner's been notified. We talked about, we'll probably send a letter to the property owners just to make sure that they're aware, because presumably the highway right of way and the sidewalk is in the highway right of way, probably to the back of the sidewalk, but as soon as you step beyond that, you're on private land. It sounded like that the permit from V-Trans had been obtained, and there was just a couple of minor things. There was a link in what had been drafted for the RFP to go out for bidders that directed folks to our website, but the link didn't work, so Casey was going to look into that. So we're getting pretty close to being able to put the sidewalk grant RFP out there to get the work done this year. The next one is the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and the wastewater plant possibility I put on here. So, and Casey actually sat in on a webinar one day last week at noontime. Actually, I think it was Valentine's Day, just to learn a little bit more about the program out there. And I'm going to paraphrase and may not get it exactly right, but bottom line is there's kind of a short application that if towns kind of put together a list of things to be considered for clean water funds, you don't necessarily, it's an application, but it's not like the official, hey, we want this amount of funds, but you get put on a list, and then you can request and maybe, receive those funds. And I may not be getting this 100% correct, but it's due March 1st. And so I had intended to get a hold of Otter Creek on Friday, and I didn't. So I've got to call them tomorrow, because they did that assessment that you recall that I don't actually have a digital copy of it, but they went through and they did that inspection at the sewer plant. And so the idea is that maybe we just put some rough things on that grant application, get it in there with some rough numbers. Mike had mentioned replacing a couple of chemical pumps. I think he'd said that might be within the $3,000 to $5,000 range. But we were all down there at the plant as well and saw the condition of that chemical room. And I'd call it a chemical room. I don't know exactly what we should probably come up with a better name
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the
for it. But
chloride room.
the chloride room, thank you.
Chloride
Yeah,
room?
chloride room, not chemical room.
Sounds
yeah.
better.
So, my suggestion was going to be if we're not encumbered by anything by putting that into the state. And if you folks were good with it, I would work with Casey and just try to get a list in there. And it wouldn't be any official action in terms of committing us to any specific thing. But then as we move through with things and we say, and we might have to like give some rough estimates, and Otter Creek might be able to help us give some rough estimates, but there's plenty of things that are needed down there, so. Is everybody okay if I? Okay.
Absolutely, thank you.
I better make a list of all the things I said I'm gonna do. The next one, and maybe we will wait for Casey on this next one, is just, excuse me, the pump station grant, and just what are the next steps, and making sure we're filling out the right forms, and because we do have to technically apply for that grant, but it would seem to me that we want to kind of make sure we keep that ball rolling, and if, my thought was, based on the meeting when Casey was here last, we just ask her to take on that and start rolling with it. Does that make sense? And then I put V-Trans grants because the possibility of bridges, and I'm gonna follow up a little bit on that one, and just kind of, and Rick mentioned, what bridge did he say? The Moxley Bridge, right? Yeah, and that might not be it, but just to see if there may be some opportunities there. I don't know. I'm not sure if V-Trans has done it in the past, but, and I'll get the number of bridges wrong that we have, but you can go onto the V-Trans website and click on them and see the inspection report, and it tells you all the things that are wrong with the bridges. And I just kind of went through it and said, to Rick's point, there's nothing major, but if it's a grant up to 175,000, there's some preventive things that maybe we could do. And obviously I want to talk with Rick, but if that seems to make sense, maybe we do pursue one. It's been a number of years since Chelsea has gotten received a bridge grant, and there's a little bit of a cycle to them. So if we thought there were things that we wanted to do that were valid, it might be worth pursuing. That's grants.
Can I sort of give a tie-in update on that section?
Oh, please. Oh, the SAM thing?
The sam.gov.
Yeah, the scary email.
I need every personally identifiable piece of document that you have, Kevin, because you're getting uploaded next. But, so we are working on that, and it's been a little clunky because we had people who have left attached to those accounts. And
SAM is?
it's sam.gov. It's kind of replaced this is my interpretation of the old the DUNS number for, like, if you were going to get grants, you would have a DUNS number. I think they're calling this a unique identifier number. Okay. And you have to have several people kind of attached to it. So it's been a little clunky because those people are gone. So we're trying to get things turned over without people that were, it's working out, but it's slow.
Okay.
It's a little clunky, and that's what that email is.
And I got an email that was very unidentifiable, and
It was.
I was like, this has got to be spam. This is a virus. If I click on this, like, my computer's going to explode.
This is really a federal document.
Right.
It does not look it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I will follow up on that email.
Yeah, we should probably connect.
Okay. Moving down through highways is done, wastewater plant. Informational meeting and town meeting preparation. I put this on here. I think our warning and everything for the information meeting is good, correct, Karen?
The only thing you needed to do is warn it around town.
Okay.
Okay, put it on our website, I put it on the listserv, I put it on Facebook, I put it on Front Porch Forum.
Awesome.
Okay, so I don't believe that needs to be in the paper,
Okay.
because you only need to put it in the paper if you haven't got it in your report and you don't have it, where else? And if it includes budget stuff.
Right.
The
Okay.
rest of it, the election of officers, you only have to warn around town. Pretty sure all of it you only have to warn around town. If you don't get your warning and you don't get anything out in your book in time to the people, then you need to put it in the newspaper.
So we're good there, the information
As far as I
meeting
know,
set
we
up,
are.
the warning's gone out. We have an agenda that we've talked about at our previous meetings. I had, and this is, I didn't even figure out how to put draft on this. These are potential budget talking points that I need to verify with Gail. But we talked about a presentation, and I might turn this into a couple of slides to give, but, oh, there we go, Karen, if we, I've got extra copies but, and we don't, I can leave these with you, I don't think I have to, if you want, I'm happy to go through each and every bullet. But bottom line, what I did is I just broke out at least what I saw as highlights from the general fund budget, both the revenue side and the operating side, and then the same with the highway budget. You know, the property, you know, amount to be raised by taxes for the property, for the general fund is a 3.58% increase over last year. But then I just talked about some of the decreases. You know, as an example, there was a $10,000 decrease in based on our estimates for current use. You know, Karen had noted a $2,000 decrease based on filing and vault fees. You know, we budgeted, but I'm not sure we have to put them all in here, but to me, it just helps kind of tell the story to have people understand what some of the highlights are, and I'm happy to add, subtract, or whatever. But I just kind of went down through here a little bit. On the operating budget side, we're at a 4.04% increase. On the operating side, obviously, with different revenue incomes, grants, that kind of stuff, that's why those two numbers, the percentages aren't the same. And I just highlighted a few things. Interestingly, because the voters last year at town meeting increased the town administrator's, town administrative assistant up to $50,000. What we actually have in our budget is a decrease in salaries on the general fund side of $12,912. But you know, I put the bullet in there. We anticipate increases in salaries. That's built into the budget. I didn't list them individually. That's in the town report. People can see that. But I just thought it was important to note that yeah, overall, if you look at the general fund salaries, our budgets are down. But so much of that is because, well, the $20,000 decrease in the town town administrative assistant. I did that wrong. I'll fix that. Anyway, I won't go down all the way down through them.
Thank you.
You know, a couple of things that I think are important to note is the $10,000 increase for First Branch and the $15,000 increase for library, to which I reached out to Jess Anderson, who's on the board, just via email, and I got to talk with her, but I did, in my email, suggest that it would be great if somebody from the library board was there at either the informational meeting or at town meeting to answer questions, because we came in so late in the game, we didn't even get a chance to talk with them.
Right, and they had, the increase.
And then the other part down under the highway fund, you know, the highway property tax amount to be raised by taxes is up 6.13%. The overall budget is up 7.81%. You know, so much of that is in diesel. You know, we're up $57,000, and $35,000 of that is just in diesel. And there's a lot of miscellaneous pieces there, but these are just kind of the highlights. So if folks want to take a look at this, if you see something I missed, I'm going to run this by Gail as well, to make sure that I didn't mess anything up here. But I just thought that this might be a good, like, when we have our public information meeting or on town meeting day, we just put it up there, and I would break it into a couple of screens, and just, we can walk through it as a board. I can do it however we want to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
The one piece that I want to work with Gail on, and I did it for one of our meetings, and I don't know if I did it completely right, but just, what does this mean? What does this mean in terms of increase? the amount to be raised by taxes, what does that mean for a $150,000 home, a $250,000? Just to put it in perspective for folks.
Right. Yeah,
If we think that's a good idea, I would include that as well.
I think that's a
I
great
think it's a
idea.
great idea.
Yeah.
So I will put those slides together and I'll just, if you send the draft in case anybody sees anything that says, please add this or don't say that wrong kind of thing.
Thank you.
Is there anything else in terms of the informational meeting or these budget talking points? Karen, just a quick check-in on town meeting.
Yes.
I mean, anything that we should be thinking about that we haven't already talked about? I mean, we're gonna show up.
Yeah, everything will be set up. I spoke with Bill Smith and we're gonna borrow his, PA system.
Okay.
So people can hear you. We'll be running an all-day election while we're doing our meetings, so it's gonna be noisy.
Right.
So speak up.
I'll set the stage.
I have to look back there. I think the school came and got all of their stuff, but I believe everything for sets is still sitting there because we didn't want to lug it back up there yet. Maybe we need to just stand it up or something. I'd have to look back there. I haven't been back there since they moved it.
If you need help with that, let me know and I can come help.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah, just send an email and I'm happy to come as well,
Okay.
so.
Because those are heavy.
Yeah, don't, if we can find a time, a couple of us can come and help you, so.
Yep.
I just don't know if you want to haul them all the way back up there, because if you do something up there, you're gonna have to haul them back
Right.
out.
Who
But
do they
some of
belong
them,
to?
Huh?
Who do they belong to?
us, they're several scenes that go with the curtains that are 100 years old. And then, of course, the extra black filler ones that, they have for the wings and stuff. They're all leaned up against the back of the stage. So I'll look and see how much space we have. If there's enough space, maybe we just won't move them until you guys figure out what we're doing up there.
Can I bring up a question about the moderator at our town meeting?
Yes.
Lack thereof? I said moderator or lack thereof.
Lack thereof.
Can we appoint an interim
I
moderator?
had this discussion with you, didn't I, Ken?
Yes,
Yes.
and there was somebody that was supposed to send an email and express interest.
Nobody sent me an email expressing
I
interest.
have one.
You do?
I do.
Did it come today? You may have it now.
Okay, I'll go look.
You probably have it now. Yes, your copy on it.
Let me just look.
There's somebody that was supposed to do it. Is,
Talk about something else for a minute.
Is that something, I don't quite know how we would manage being the moderator. And if, I guess we're going to moderate, right? If we don't appoint a moderator,
right.
we would be moderating.
Yes,
I would
you would.
find that incredibly stressful and challenging, that's a good word, stressful, to manage that along with the meeting, and I'm just wondering if we consider appointing for this upcoming meeting. Just, would we do it that day? How would we do it?
I'd have a special meeting and just do it one evening. I don't want
Just
to
to
do it.
fill out a term, right?
It's just, yes, to fill out a term.
Okay.
If we could have put this on the agenda if I got, sorry. Call a special meeting and
We're under town meeting preparation.
we're at what?
I said, I brought it up because I was thinking we're under town meeting preparation, but we would need a special meeting to do that, is what you're saying.
It would look better, yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, special meeting, BCA night, Thursday. We have a BCA meeting here at 6:30. You could do special meeting, 6 o'clock, and appoint your moderator that night, and then still be here at 6:30 for your BCA meeting. And I could put the meeting notice out tomorrow.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Karen.
As long as that individual is available.
She doesn't have to be available.
Oh, she doesn't have to.
You just
okay.
have to take that and read it at your meeting and say, we're going to appoint this person, and then vote on
Might
it.
as well. You have an email, who is the person?
Special meeting,
Emily Libby Marshy.
yes. Special meeting.
I think she's on the warning though, isn't she, for?
She's in the election.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know about that part.
So, anyway.
It's, she's being voted on for the next year, not this year.
Right. Right, I'm just saying.
This would just, right, this would only
Just
be
be
for
this
that
year.
one day. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
special meetings.
I would love to be able to do something like that.
Okay.
How do folks feel about having a special meeting at 6 on, I completely forgot about BCA on Thursday night. How do folks feel about meeting,
At 6?
At 6 on Thursday.
I'm
or,
good.
or 6:15? I mean,
Or 6:15,
I mean,
whatever.
if that's the only agenda item, then it's,
Should be super
Yeah.
quick, yeah.
I'll let you know after the snowstorm.
Only need 3 of you.
that's fair.
Yeah,
I
Kevin
say,
needs
only
to,
need 3 of you.
yeah, but I
5-person
think
board,
Kevin
3
should
people
recuse
voting.
himself.
Yeah, I would recuse myself.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think we should
okay.
ask him to recuse himself.
That's true.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Bill,
I will do my best to be here.
thank you.
Okay, 6:15.
Plan your plow route so you could,
Swing
you
in.
could stop at Will's and get a cup of coffee and come here for 3 minutes and then be gone.
Yeah.
Have to come into the office for a little while tomorrow anyway, so we will just post that.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Karen.
I just have to remind myself that I come in
I'll
early.
send you an email.
Thank you.
I just completely forgotten about the BCA meeting until when you said that, I'm like, what?
Well, I guess I'll put that email out again too.
Yeah. Okay, are we good with information meeting, town meeting? I put the Division of Fire Safety report, did we receive it?
Did not, and I actually sent him an email tonight when I
Okay.
realized we didn't have it.
Okay. So we can move on that one. Computer purchase update, and again, Gail and I had gone back and forth, and maybe this was on me, so I'll take but Gail was unable to be here tonight, and she had worked with Derek at Culkins, and she and I had exchanged some emails, and there were some different laptop options. And the one that's being recommended is $850. And I can go through all the details if we want to, but it's an HP ProBook. They're $850, and the idea was that we would get one for the sewer plant and one for the administrative assistant.
Sounds great.
Is everybody good with that? Okay, and I will apologize because it may have been me that held that up for the
Gail
past week.
sent a message that the info's in her yellow folder. Computer info is in a yellow folder.
Yep.
Yeah, that's.
That's
Right
yeah.
here, yep.
Okay.
Which we can put that back in her yellow folder. So basically, we as a board are good with Gail moving forward with those purchases. Okay. The next that we added in here is a comment, request for the commons, to use the commons, from Phyllis Hayward, president of the Chelsea Flea Market Association. And so I'll just read this. Dear Select Board of Chelsea, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your continued support, or for the continued support that the Chelsea Flea Market Association and the community of Chelsea receives continually from our Select Board. Once again, we're requesting the use of the North Common and the South Common to be used from July 6th through July 8th for the annual flea market. In addition, we would like to be able to park cars on the ball field as we've done in the past. Funds generated from the parking goes to Will Gilman, which is the Robert Gould Fund, to help maintain the field. We also would like to request parking vehicles on the greens when necessary for vendors to set up their space. I have attached the use of the use form for the commons. Thank you again for your assistance and support. Sincerely yours, Phyllis Hayward. And then she's filled out the form, July 6th through July 8th. And then the time and length of the actual event is 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Expected attendance is hundreds. We're all familiar with the flea market. So it looks like the form is there. We've got the letter. I assume we need to take formal action. So is there a motion?
I move to allow the Chelsea Flea Market Committee to use the greens July 6th through 9th, I believe it was.
8th.
8th.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I will sign this and put it back in Gail's folder.
Bill, did you second that? Or Lena? Lena?
Bill, do you mind just sticking that back in the front of the folder? Also, folder.
Gail's folder.
Yep. Thank you. So I just put policy considerations, and I worded it considerations because we've had these on our agendas, but we haven't come back to them because we've had so much going on. Do we want to attempt to tackle the purchasing policy tonight?
The highlights were in red.
So the changes based on our previous meetings are in red? Okay.
I will say it also includes the ones they made in November, and I do have the meeting notes where they approved those changes.
Okay, so which,
So
to
you're-
be clear for those following along,
Okay.
this is the purchasing policy.
Yes,
And the ones they made in November are in red?
they are in red too.
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
I'll look at them with you. And
Okay.
I'll tell you which ones they are.
okay.
They are, yours first, second page in was, the one I made under purchasing agents, town treasurer, administrative assistant. That said town administrator. So
Okay.
and Gail also already has, permission to use the credit card, the debit card.
Okay.
And they had made provisions for the administrative assistant to use it too, I think, I'm pretty sure. You made a change to minor purchases further down. You upped it to $5,000. Under major purchases, I changed the purchases over $5,000 to require approval of the select board. Your minor purchases, $5,000 without prior approval, but with due notification to the select board and limited to the amount of the budget authorized by the town. Although not required, competitive quotes from at least 2 vendors should be obtained whenever possible.
So can just remind
That's
me,
yours.
what was the prior approval limit? I know we talked about it. Was it 2,000?
Yes.
Okay.
And you upped it. And then, I'm sorry, if you go to second to last page, where it says exceptions, value, services, that was actually entered into and amended by the last board. And that was for the use of the debit card. And on the last page, also they had upped, under professional services, November 1st, they had amended the value up to $20,000 from $10,000, so they could get the audit done without getting a bid. Yes. Yours was pretty much just that, minor purchases. You wanted Rick to be able to do a purchase up to $5,000 without having to wait for, a board to meet if he needed to get it done.
Okay.
That's what prompted that. And nothing else changed.
So Karen, one quick,
Did I miss any?
well, I just want to make sure on page 3, it says for all major purposes with a value between 2001 and above.
Oh, shoot, I missed.
Would that be 5,001?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
On the second page, do we want to change road foreman to road supervisor?
Have we officially made that, did we make that official?
Well, the job description and all of that, I've been trying to switch to,
Okay.
Highway supervisor?
or highway supervisor. Or highway supervisor.
Okay.
Federal funding uses for purchases between 3,000, oh, so that's a federal, that's a Davis-Bacon wage thing, the 3,000, okay.
We can incorporate these and bring it to the new board after the March election if you'd like. Or you can approve them now.
Do we have a preference?
I don't know, I'm still reading.
It's okay.
I
It
think,
doesn't have to be approved.
yeah, I'm thinking it's for all major purchases. I think I'm on page 3,
Yep.
with a value between 2001.
Right, Kevin said that needed to be 5,000.
Yes.
At one.
Except
Uh-huh.
I actually don't think, I mean, this is really about getting, getting shopping around is really what this paragraph speaks to. And if we changed that to 5,001, that would mean that there wouldn't be any, we would not be requiring more than one, what am I trying to spit out?
Oh,
We wouldn't be requiring more than one quote. So,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
and so my thought is that I actually think we should have more than one quote before we even get to 2,000. I don't think we should change that to 5,000.
But you guys wanted that changed because Rick came in here and said he had an issue.
We want the, right, but I'm in a bit different paragraph. What I'm saying is we need to adjust our language so it all
Yes.
jives.
Yes.
And I believe that we should be looking at getting more than one quote. I would say before $2,000, but, I mean,
Yeah, so the interesting, one of the things is, at the end of minor purchases, it says, although not required, competitive quotes from at least 2 vendors should be obtained whenever possible.
I think that was in the.
That's in the minor purchases piece?
That was there before.
right.
So we're not requiring it under minor purchases up to 5,000.
Right, but we're requiring it for major purchases. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is $2,000 seems a lot to not get a second quote on. But somebody please say something, like, talk me out of that. It feels like we would want more than one quote before we got to $2,000.
So it's kind of, it's how do we, it's almost like we would need to take, although not required, like, it's almost like required bids would be its own section. Because the way that minor purchase is written, and then if we keep it 2,000 over here, it's almost like it's a conflict.
So I wonder,
Right.
but if we got rid of identifying them as major or minor purchases and just indicated
Right.
Purchases in general.
purchases.
So, okay, so, Mike, then where my brain goes is that $2,000 piece, is that under the major purchases section
Well,
or not?
well, prior to when we raised it recently, the major purchase was $2,001, but we changed it.
Right.
So now we need to adjust our language here, but I think it goes beyond that. I think that we should adjust our total. So if we crossed out, we just did purchases with a value of whatever and
Right.
above.
And my only thing is, this is under the major purchases section, so we would
Oh,
just,
I see what
we
you're
would put it, we would just have to put another section.
Yes, I'm so
That-
sorry, but now I'm
Right,
with you.
does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So, we've got incidental purchases,
Yep.
minor purchase, major purchases, we should put a competitive bid section. And-
Yes.
Right, is that,
Yep,
and strike that from, strike the sentence from the minor,
yes.
Okay, I'm not gonna be able to follow you.
Do you want, can we send it to you, Karen? Okay.
does that make sense to everybody? If we put a section in that says competitive bidding,
Yes. Yeah, I like that language.
and under minor purchases, we would strike the although not required,
Yes.
we would strike it from there. And then we would say, for all purchases,
Are you on page 3?
right, I'm kind of, I'm writing a new section that I'll hand to you.
Okay.
For all purchases exceeding $2,000. And I'm spitballing, so if I'm not getting this right, just exceeding $2,000.
And that would be,
And then we could go on to say price and rate quotations shall be obtained from at least 2 qualified vendors to ensure the town has received a fair and reasonable price. Vendors will be selected based on cost, quality, like that. The rest of that paragraph would work.
Yes.
It's just would be in its own section,
Yep.
right? Does that make sense to everybody? Lena, Bill?
Yep.
So basically what we're saying, we've defined what a minor purchase is, what a major purchase is in terms, and we've upped that limit, and we've defined who can do that. And then we've just said for these services, the competitive bidding, we're saying anything over $2,000, we'd like to get quotes. And Karen, I can give you this.
And so is $2,000 where we want to request a second quote?
Right, I think, to me at least, it says, shall be obtained from at least 2 qualified bidders, received, I think maybe we should add whenever possible, because in some cases, there's just not 2 bidders, right? I mean, so,
Well, bidders or, they're not really bidding on the job though, are they? In this situation?
Well,
Well, I think it depends on,
it depends on what we're talking about. So if we're getting a part for a truck from the dealership,
So that's called a bid.
Well,
Well, it's a vendor.
it's a vendor.
Okay. So I think where I keep, it seems to me that I would want more than one vendor to give us a price on something that cost $1,800. I would want us to go to more than one.
Well, we're saying 2,000.
Right, that's what I'm saying to you. I'm sorry, I'm being very unclear. I think 2,000 is too high to
Right.
not request a second vendor, but that's what I'm saying.
So you would
Please,
lower it below
I
2,000?
would lower it, but
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I didn't-
But if that doesn't make sense, because I don't typically go out and buy stuff like that, if that doesn't make sense, then somebody tell me that, no, $2,000 reasonable, but it feels like on something that's $2,000, you could have a couple $100 difference.
So an example is we just approved the purchase of 2 computers, it would be $1,700.
Right. Exactly.
So should we have asked for 2 quotes?
That's where my mind's going.
Okay. My mind hadn't gone there, my mind had gone to the conversation from Rick about paving on the East Randolph Road.
Oh,
I think we want to, I think if this is our policy, we need to make sure that we at least try to get more than one bidder.
yeah. I don't know, so,
Well, I suggest you think about it and you put all your revisions into Kevin. And then Kevin can forward me.
Yeah, I think, Kelly, I guess Karen's point's a good one. I think I'm trying to think of examples, right? And the best one is the computer thing.
right.
We just approved that. Do we want to say, no, Gail, go get us 2 quotes, or use the same person that we always use for our computers? And we've kind of already approved it, but
We did get 2 quotes.
we did.
Because Billy got
Well,
Oh,
Bill's
okay,
got one.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that,
Oh, we didn't, that's not where we went, is not through the quote that you got.
Well, no, that's fine.
I'm sorry,
But we still-
I thought the name, never mind. I'm up to
so
speed.
the computers were okay because we,
Yes,
in essence,
yeah,
had that discussion. I'm trying to think of where 2,000 is right, where 500's right, you know what I mean? I don't know.
no, I don't either.
I think you should hold off. You're gonna have another board member come March 7th, and they might have ideas too.
True.
And I think that way you all have a chance to think about it and read through it a little more thoroughly.
So because we keep talking about this one, can we all commit to like going through this, and putting our comments in here so that at our first meeting after town meeting, we'd be like, all right, cool, we got this. Is that?
Yes.
And I say that as much for myself as anybody else, because I'm like, oh yeah, purchasing policy. But we do have to start ticking some of these things off. At our meeting on March 21st, I believe we invited the Rices to come to talk about the Class 4 road.
They
Yeah.
did, but I'll make sure it did.
So the Class 4 road policy, probably after that meeting, is something we're gonna wanna make sure we tackle.
Yes.
So can we, I'm just gonna throw this out there, can we just, and I'm gonna try this and you guys tell me if these are terrible ideas, but can we just say that, like, because we're gonna review this, that we'll exchange comments on this by March 2nd? Let's say by the information meeting, is that, and that way there we have time to put it together,
Yeah.
get it to Karen, and we can have a draft at our first meeting afterwards.
Yeah. Yes.
Do we wanna tackle any other policies tonight? I don't think we actually have the Class 4 roads policy. Do we wanna tackle that tonight or put that on a future agenda?
So wait, you wanna, what did you want to do to the class 4 policy? We don't have,
Well, we don't have it in front of us, but as an example, it says you can only update it in July.
right.
Right, yeah.
You know, which maybe we can't even actually update it because it says we can't update it, but that just seems really weird. It seems like with people coming in on the Thorn Place Road, we should be talking about it and getting to the point where we say this is gonna be our policy come July. Just a unique, I still haven't asked, I've gotta ask somebody who was on the board then what the thought.
Do you want me to take that off your plate and reach out and ask them what the whole July thing was about?
You can, I mean, it's, I can just ask Ken Colby, because he was on the board, I think he even drafted it, so I don't mind, I see Ken quite often, so. I'm happy to have you do it, Lena, but if you want, I see Ken all the time. I think, there's gotta be some,
Like,
Almost asked the other day.
what's that?
I almost asked him the other day.
Oh, when you saw him the other day, yeah. I've seen him a couple of times, I keep forgetting to ask him, but.
so are we not doing anything about that policy tonight, or are we gonna try to touch on it? Not tonight.
I just threw it on there as policy considerations, just, I didn't know where we were at, but it's up to you guys if, I'm okay kind of passing over it for now. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Approving orders, has everybody had a chance to, would you mind passing those to me, Bill? I looked at them, I just haven't signed them. Is there a motion on the orders?
Move to approve orders as written.
Seconded.
Motion's been made to approve and seconded, is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, is there, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. The motion passes. Actually, I'm reminded that a good person maybe to have in that conversation on the limit for 2 vendors would be Gail. And looking at this, she might be like, no, don't do that to me because of this, or she might say, that's a great idea.
Right.
And so the oh, okay, and the interesting piece is that Clover Patch Water Services is, their invoices in here for the, for their time at the plant. We had put on the agenda, executive session as needed for personnel. I think we identified maybe a couple of things tonight that we wanna talk about.
Yeah.
If so, is there a motion?
I move to enter executive session.
Is there a second? There's a second, so we will move into executive session. We're good. So we have exited executive session, and we are going to, we discuss wastewater plant operation, and need to have some follow-up there, regarding how we want to move forward. And we also, discuss, requiring a medical card for the position that we're advertising, for the highway department. And I believe, Bill, you had one other item.
Just real quick. I'm getting more and more complaints about our log pile down at the sand pile, that it's not disappearing, it's actually growing. And so maybe there needed to be a little more clarification in that the 30 days wasn't meant to, when we said 30 days, it didn't mean you could use the spot for 30 days, is that you had 30 days to remove what was there and not bring in more, right?
So we're 14 days into that now, is that right?
Something like that, yep. And I did see it the other day, it's quite large, the log piles down there. So,
I'm not a board member, am I?
So is that, I guess, Jenny,
she's gone.
she's gone?
She's out of the country for a while, so.
Oh. So do we have a point of contact?
We do, yep. And I can make that call.
I guess I would encourage you to make that call and just say,
Don't
you
add
need to
any
stop,
more.
and you got,
Yeah,
as of our board meeting on whatever it was, February 7th, you had 30 days.
right. Well, and I wonder if there was some miscommunication there that,
Yeah.
And just
Would it-
cease adding any additional logs. Logs can only be removed.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I drove by the other day, and the pile's getting
Yeah.
pretty substantial.
Yeah, considerably bigger. So, okay. I'll take care of that.
And then was there anything else down there in terms of the trailer? or-
Yep. I will talk to Mr. Hastings about the Bellavance tractor trailer that's there. Is there a time that he can come see us, or that we'd like to see him, or?
Well, I guess if you'd like to continue using it down there, request to come before the board and,
Okay.
you know, I mean, I think in fairness, we'd do that for anybody, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, let's hear what the issue is, and it's
Take it from
like, it's, I mean, somebody mentioned at a previous meeting, it's like logs. I mean, there have been over the years, some logs placed there for a short duration of time, and,
Right.
you know, I mean, I think if, at least my opinion is, if somebody wants to use the space, come and ask us. I mean, you know.
Yep.
Any further
So,
business? I definitely entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yeah.
Make a
Yeah.
move-
Oh,
I
yeah,
move
sorry.
to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Now's the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. We've got our meeting on March 2nd, which is an informational meeting. One thing that we do have to do, and we've adjourned, so we can't, but